Let's roll. So welcome everybody. This is the Email and CRM Marketing Master Session. My name is Andrew Kordek. I'm the co-founder of Trendline Interactive. I got four wonderful speakers with me here today, all brand side. So most of you, I hope, are brand side. They're going to speak on some great topics. But what I wanted to do was just kind of kick it off, a little bit about me. I'm bald. I got 600,000 emails in my inboxes, which means I check a lot of email. I love coffee. I love American football. I love rugby. And about 2.5 years ago, I started a company called Trendline Interactive, and we're a strategic email marketing agency. So most of you who are agency or used to agencies, we only deal at strategic email marketing. So we're full service, means we have ESP vendor selection, creative, messaging, content, creative, implementation, the whole shebang. But I think to add some credibility, some street cred to who I am, I used to run global email marketing at Quest Software. I ran all of transactional and triggered email at Sears, which is over $50 million, which I was responsible for. And I was one of the first 120 employees at Groupon. Anybody here at Groupon here? Pretty decent success and rise and failure. So I live and breathe email marketing. I'd be honored if you want to send me an email or if you want to follow me on Twitter. You know, they asked me to give trends, and I hate trends. I actually like observations. As an agency owner, and specifically around email, whether or not we want to believe it or not, whether or not the articles tell us, consumers are addicted to email. You are addicted to email. We check it in the bathroom. We check it at funerals and at weddings. And believe it or not, and don't deny it, y'all have gone away from your vacation, snuck away from your family, and checked your email. I know that to be true because I've done it. In fact, there was a study done out of the UK 2 years ago that said 2% of the people actually stopped having sex to check email. Now, I'm not going to ask you if you stopped to have sex to check your email, but we as marketers and as consumers are addicted. But what does this tell us? I personally think that the email address is the most prized possession on the internet today. When you get it, you need to hold on to it. You need to nurture it. You need to treat it. And we're going to get into mobile readership, and some of the speakers here are going to talk a little bit about that. But we drive, actually I use the word we because we are in email marketing. We drive offline and online, and guess what? Year over year, email volume increases. So what was once the uncool kid on the digital block is now cool again. And it's still kicking ass, and it will continue to kick ass. Case in point, I truly believe that the presidential election was won in email marketing. Obama raised a butt ton of money, a lot. Look at the read rates compared to Romney. Look at the ISP spam rates compared to Romney. But what people don't realize is that they had 18 writers on staff. Toby Falsgraf, who used to run the email program, I've talked to him, I met him, I've seen him speak, I've seen him do a lot of different things. They had 4 to 6 different body copies for each and every email. And they sent out a test at 7 a.m. and 60 to 90 minutes later, they sent the winner. Now, if that doesn't speak to the volume and the power of email, or to the volume and power of testing, I don't know what will. We also found out that ugly won, right? So we always talk about prettiness of emails, and subject lines win. Actually, one of the subject lines, hey, if some of you guys got that email, was a tremendous success to them. Now look, we've all read it. Who here has read an article about mobile, right, recently, in email? We all have. I'm not here to discuss the value of mobile email consumption is increasing at a rapid rate. We all know that. The debate is raging in a lot of inner circles about responsive design and mobile first and desktop. I'm not here to talk about that. What I'm here to say is I think of mobile and the consumption of mobile, of email, as an experience. So when I talk about an experience in email, I talk about and I think about things of how do we as individuals interact. Most marketers today love to cram as much stuff as we can in an email. And so if you look at it, how in the world am I supposed to take with my thumbs and go find you on Facebook or Twitter or share? You see, it's about the experience. And responsive design, for what its merits for some organizations, can change the experience. Some will argue, does it change conversions? Does it change engagement? Only you are going to know that. Only we are going to know that by testing. I think about brands that look at and put stuff in their email that I can't even read. And yet I'm supposed to read it because that's part of my experience. How in the world am I supposed to get to garner a call of action on a little tiny screen? Think about the experience when we start talking about mobile. Not just about, do you have a strategy? Do you know how many people are looking at your emails on a mobile device? We've talked for many years about social media and email and the integration of the two. And I'm not worried about social media integration anymore. You know what I'm worried about? I'm actually seeing a lot of organizations being social in email. We all join social media for a reason. To be social with one another, to have a conversation, to show the humanized approach to marketing. And I'm seeing a lot of brands today being social in email, specifically around the humanization of the corporate identity. And I'll have an example of here in a minute. But bringing that spirit of social into email, using social icons and bringing in your Facebook timelines. There's one brand I think that does it phenomenally well. And if you're in the audience or if you don't subscribe, I encourage you to go subscribe to Patagonia. Every single one of their emails brings the spirit of social into their emails. They have these things called brand ambassadors that wear and utilize their products, and they put them in the email. It's not just a picture of a snowboard or a picture of a jacket that says, come and buy it, it's on sale today. They actually have people who do it. And here's a wonderful story about one of their people that wears their product, that's selling it. And it's every single email. You see, that's the spirit of social. What I meant by the humanization of the corporate identity, I mean brands are putting in their staff pics, but not just fake staff pics. Staff pics that are, hey, I utilize this product on a day-to-day basis. J. Crew has a wonderful example of this with one of their fashion designers that they show, this is what I wear to work, this is what I like to do on the weekend. They do a lot of different things in bringing the social in email. But the battle rages on. As marketers, there's always this problem of inbox placement, and it's happening on a regular and consistent basis. Gmail keeps changing the ball game with Google. The solution is not forcing as much email into the inbox. The solution now becomes content, becomes messaging, becomes the difference between being proactive versus reactive. The difference being is that you need to message your content appropriately around your subscribers' behavior. Not what you want to send, but what they want to receive. Looking at their behavior and looking at it from the standpoint of being proactive and putting intervention triggers and understanding when they fall off and when they come back on and messaging them at the right time. And that takes what? That takes data. That takes regression analysis. That takes a lot of different things. Now more than ever, we need to focus on our messaging and our content strategy. And one of the last observations that I see in the marketplace today, we all talk about testing, and we've talked about it for many years. And most people try to execute and can execute successfully A/B tests. Some people have moved to multivariate tests. I'm having a lot of clients come to me and saying, Andrew, we've exhausted our A/B tests. There's 100 things for us to test. We can't move the needle all that much. I want to try something different. And we're in the midst right now of executing against 3 design of experiment or Taguchi-based tests, where you have the ability to test up to 33,000 different parameters in an email off of 4 emails with 18 separate sets of creative, and it's done over a 6-week period. Most of the time is setting up the parameters and producing the 18 sets of creative. And a case in point, one of my clients is a publisher out of New York City, tested 10,348 parameters over 4 specific emails, put it up against their control, and they had a click to open rate and a click increase of 456%. That's humongous from a publishing standpoint. Move beyond A/B. Think about what you want to test and the different sorts of arrays and how many different thousands of variations you could do. But one of the side to my agency is that we've got a research side. And in fact, probably some of you have read a lot of the research. We do it behind the scenes. We had a question. This was part of the collaboration of Exact Target's Subscribers, Fans, and Followers series. The first question was, name one company you believe does an excellent job at marketing to you. They named all the different companies. And the second question, which has this graph here, was, thinking of that company, where should they invest more of their marketing time and resources to make you an even more loyal customer? We asked consumers with smartphones, without smartphones, and marketers. And guess what we found out? First of all, as marketers, we're all weird. First of all, we're weird. We love to glom on to the Facebook and the Twitter and the Google Plus and the SMS, and we think that's where our customers want to be. Overwhelmingly, consumers with smartphones and without smartphones says invest in email. Not invest in content, not invest in Foursquare, not invest in other little things that we as marketers think that we want to be. They said overwhelmingly email. Email is kicking ass. And you're going to hear from these 4 folks that email is kicking ass in their organizations. So with that, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. I actually just met her, but I've been following her on Twitter for a while. Her name is Stephanie Sammons. And Stephanie, she's an interactive specialist at 31. She's had the pleasure of going to work every day knowing that she'll help an organization with cool things like strategy, planning, business integration, and the execution of internet initiatives. They have a direct impact on over 100,000 consultants, and she's going to talk today about a lot of different things. She's been with Bob Evans, the Columbus Dispatch, Express, and among others. She has an MS in Marketing Communications. She's a proud graduate of Ohio University. Did they make the 64 round tournament this year?
I think so.
Go
I
Bobcats.
don't follow sports.
So introduce Stephanie Sammons with 31.
Hi. Thank you. My name is Stephanie, Interactive Solutions Specialist at 31 Gifts. So I guess the first question is, what is an Interactive Solutions Specialist? And so kind of applied for the job blindly. I had been managing the social media and mobile strategy for Express and decided, sure, why not? I'm up for the challenge. So what that is exactly is I do a little bit of web. I can do cut and code and email. I can do graphics. I can do Flash. I can do a little bit of everything. So that's what that means, basically. And what is 31 Gifts? So 31 Gifts was actually founded in 2003 by a person named Cindy Monroe. She founded the company in her basement with a single idea. Not only was it about a product, but it was about the idea of having flexibility in your business for women. So she really just wanted to empower women to work 2 to 3 hours a week and be able to support her family through any varieties of flexibility. The products are super cute, and they're off to the right there. So we have totes, we have thermal totes, organizational stuff. So yes, I love fashion, I love stuff. So I'm a hoarder. In any case, 31 is one of America's fastest growing direct selling companies. Actually, last week we were voted, well, not voted, but we are number 18 in the world as far as top direct sellers. We have 100,000 consultants, as mentioned, so what that means is it's pretty much like Avon. So we have those consultants that go out and sell the product for us. Which is a little bit different from where I was coming. We were purely e-com at Express, and now where I am, it's a little B2B and B2C, so it's very, very interesting in how we conduct our business. And as I said, we're growing, but we're growing fast. So we're only a 10-year-old company with a 2-year-old web team. So needless to say, when I started last year, we went from 3 employees to 9. Yay! So we're growing, and we're growing fast, but we're now a $1 billion company. So like I said, we're a little bit different in the fact that we are B2B and B2C. We not only send email to our consultants, so we empower them with messages of, the new styles that are coming up, business updates, upcoming promotions, events, etc. But we also send a once monthly publication called Inspire. Inspire is directly sent from our CEO, Cindy, and she does a very short video to kind of empower women, not only on tips of how to run your business, but things that she learned in kind of building the brand. The second type of email that we send are customer facing. So these are your typical transactional emails, party invites, special segmented or test campaigns, and like Andrew was saying, we test like crazy, kind of obsessed with it. So every single email that we send is an A/B test or multivariate test. And the one that I'm really most proudly kind of championing is the monthly customer email. And this is sent once monthly to customers on behalf of the consultants. So as a brand, we kind of focus in on what the key messages are for the month, and then we send out an email on behalf of those consultants. So it's a little bit different. As you can see, we have a web version and a mobile version. So we've kind of noticed in the past couple of months, sorry, I think I'm getting sick, but we have noticed, as Andrew has mentioned, significant mobile growth where we've gone from about 36% to upwards of 50% consumption on the mobile version. But that's not the story. So the monthly customer email is very technically involved in order to send the email on behalf of consultants. The other really cool thing about it is that we empower consultants with the data. So what we do is we not only send the email on the behalf of the consultant, but then we also supply a report 1, 3, and 7 days after the customer email has been sent to basically tell the consultants, hey, here's who opened and here's who clicked. And you may be asking, okay, well, how is that data important to them? So they can know specifically who has opened and who has clicked and what features they're most interested in. So for example, I may have clicked on host a party. So that consultant may follow up directly with that consultant or that customer to then see if they're interested in potentially hosting a party or learning more about what hosting a party means. The second really cool thing that we've done is something called Contact Plus. So this was a project that, as soon as I started, it was like, okay, you're doing this, and kind of got volunteered to do a whole email campaign. So Contact Plus is really kind of a cool feature. One of the things about being a consultant is you can opt in to receive whatever kind of email on your behalf. So a consultant can pay about $3 a month to have their own website that we maintain, as well as this monthly customer email. A couple of the goals of Contact Plus was not only to provide the tools for the consultant to then be able to better support their business, but also improve deliverability. So with this project, we signed on with ExactTarget, to send through their APIs and doing a whole series of really cool things with our database through APIs instead of using the SMTP. We also provide consultants with insights, so this is through reporting, as I mentioned with the activity report, but then also other reports that we send directly to them. We're actually setting the stage, so as I said, we're a very small company, but with big potential. So what we're trying to do is set the stage for future iterations for allowing us to segment, do lead generation and reporting, but then also sustaining the value of Contact Plus, so that $3 subscription. So a couple of the features of Contact Plus include ExactTarget's reporting. So we have a back office with 31, so the consultant can always log in and kind of see, what's going on, what's happening. But they can also now access ExactTarget's reporting through single sign-on. So that was a big win for us because it allows them to easily access that type of reporting for party invites. The second feature that we're really proud of is that 85% actually have Contact Plus, but of those people, those 15% that don't have Contact Plus, or those who maintain their contact list through an external mean, they can now easily import their contacts through Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, AOL, Outlook, and a CSV file. So that allows them to quickly and easily import their customers into the back end to then continue to communicate with them in an easier manner. And something that is kind of like a no-brainer is the subscription center. So not only is it a subscription center, but we customize the subscription center to really fit their needs. So on average, people generally have 1 to 2 consultants. But if you do have multiple consultants, like I have 8 somehow, don't know how that happened. I think I was testing like crazy, and now I have 8. But in any case, I can go back and always manage my preferences. I can see who my consultants are. I can opt into their certain lists, and that just allows more flexibility from the customer to receive the messages that they want to receive and how they want to receive them. So in summary, 31 has really gone from a lackluster, unfocused email program to one that we're extremely proud of. Setting this stage to allow us to continue to send email from a platform that can maintain our scale and volume. We're now up to almost 8 million subscribers, so it's a hugely growing company, having 100,000 consultants, but now almost up to 8 million customers. We're able to gather behavioral insights from consultants and customer-facing email that allow us to better target and segment key groups. And we're able to move forward with additional iterations of Contact Plus. So Contact Plus is just really at its barest state, which we're really hoping to move to the next level within the next year. And most importantly, empower consultants who are our brand evangelists. So these people are really our cheerleaders and the ones that interact with the customers. So our job is to basically empower them with the tools they need to best support their business, which is a little bit different. And as you can see, that's not actually a rock concert. That's our national conference. It's only 15,000 of them. So in any case, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Stephanie. The next speaker is George DeGuido. I actually met George several years ago. I was uber impressed with his knowledge around this space. And so George right now is located here locally. He's the head of email marketing at Airbnb. It's a trusted community marketplace for people to list, discover, and book unique spaces around the world, online or from a mobile phone. And in a previous life, George ran email marketing for Zeta Interactive, which is an email service provider and a digital marketing agency. So give it away.
Great.
George.
Thank you, Andrew. Excuse me. So why am I up here? I run email marketing for Airbnb. And before we get into kind of some tactics that I follow and kind of like to use when I'm thinking about email, I want to tell you a little bit about Airbnb. But before we get there, who's heard of Airbnb? Raise your hands. Sweet. Okay. Who uses Airbnb? Who's traveled? Okay. And this question, don't worry, I won't tell anybody. Who lists their space on Airbnb? Anybody? Oof, okay. You guys can reach out after. We'll get your spaces on Airbnb. So as Andrew mentioned, Airbnb is a trusted community marketplace. We have travelers, we have hosts, and we merge those two audiences together to provide unique experiences and engross people in other cultures where they might not have traveled if they're staying in a hotel. How many people are staying in a hotel while they're here? Next time you travel for a conference, check out Airbnb. I'm sure you'll love the experience. So we're a community. What does that mean? That means we have people like myself, married, father of 2. We have people who are canary lovers. They have hundreds of canaries. We have people who like to travel. So they go to different places, maybe to see canaries or travel and go on safari and things like that. But we were founded in 2008. Joe, Nate, and Brian, our 3 founders, started in San Francisco. We're on Rhode Island Street, right down in Soma. And they started in an apartment with a need. They needed to pay the rent. There was a design conference coming into San Francisco. They went out, bought 3 air mattresses, had 3 guests that first weekend, and the company was born. Last year, we opened 11 new offices globally. So we're headquartered in San Francisco, our only U.S. office. We opened 11 other offices in 2012, and soon to be more in 2013. We've had 4 million guests. 4 million people have used our service to travel and stay in other people's spaces on Airbnb. 3 million in 2012 alone. We have listings and guests in 192 different countries, and there's over 300,000 places to stay on Airbnb. So, how does that translate into email? Well, As you can imagine, as I'm sure some of you experience, the email team at Airbnb globally is a team of two, myself and one of my colleagues. So we have to do a lot with a limited amount of resources. So my first tip and kind of things that I do, I try to use analytics to help decide what we're going to do in email. And Andrew spoke about testing. We do a lot of testing. We test in every single campaign that we send, and we start with what we know, and we test what we don't. So one thing that we know is that we know that our users make the best hosts, if they're not hosts already. So we start with that audience, learn what people are thinking about hosting, and then use those themes and trends in our email to help push that barrier down to get people to come on our site and list their space. We do a lot of research, we test, and then we repeat. We never have a static control. We're always testing that challenger to make sure that our tests are optimized and our emails are optimized for performance. This next one is big. Make friends with your analysts. Now you might be saying, well, I don't have any analysts to make friends with. Well, there's someone in your company that knows analytics. They know SQL, they know Access. Make friends with them. Make fast friends with them, because what they can tell you about your audience will help you leaps and bounds. Like I said, find others who can help you to help you find and research the trends for the emails that you're already sending. The last one there is a personal favorite of mine, learn SQL. Now you might be saying, yeah, I'm not a coder, I don't know how to do it. It's very simple, and you'll be able to perform your own analysis. Now I'm not saying you need to go to Gucci level, but just simple analysis allows you to kind of query research. And then the last point there, make mistakes. Don't be afraid to send something out and have it totally bomb. You learn from your failures, you learn from your successes. Tip number 2, this is important. It was a really important lesson that I learned early on at Airbnb, is to know the conversion. We have a goal this year to drive additional hosts to our site from our existing user base. We drove a ton of people into the List Your Space, which is our conversion funnel. But at the end of the day, we weren't getting the conversions that we needed. So what we did is we went through the funnel and found all of the different points where people would drop out of the funnel. Something was broken. The information wasn't there. It was just a challenge to get people through that process to hit that submit button. So go through your own conversion funnels and make sure that the site, the experience, is something that will follow through, and that you're not losing people that you're spending money and effort to get into that channel. Another piece is don't get stuck at the bottom. Don't focus on that end conversion. There are a lot of secondary conversions that you might obtain from that channel and conversion funnel that mean something to you. So establish your sub-conversion metrics and take note of secondary calls to action off of your email campaigns. Yeah, you might have an ROI objective for an email, but there might be other things happening with the people who are interacting with your emails that still provide a huge amount of value to your company. Don't provide your email recipients with distractions. Good point here is that we have this tool on our site called What's My Place Worth. It allows you to enter your address into our widget, you hit submit, and it tells you how much you could make per month if you listed your place on Airbnb. We put this in all of our emails up until about a month ago. The top link clicked in our email was What's My Place Worth. The second two was jobs and contact. Right? People were so focused on what they could make that they totally bypassed the conversion funnel. So what do we do now? We don't put this in our emails. Conversions have jumped about 300%. Tip number 3, design versus conversion. Andrew mentioned this earlier about mobile first and designing for mobile and responsive design. I think all of that is awesome. It's great. But it doesn't mean anything if those people don't convert, right? The experience is great, but if they can't convert through your mobile channels, then don't send them there, right? Because if you sacrifice your conversion for design and mobile, you're losing out. So make sure that if you are designing mobile first and pushing a mobile framework to your users, your mobile infrastructure can support that. Know your metrics. Know how many of your openers are happening on mobile. For us, it's about 45% of our user base is opening on mobile. Of that 45%, about 50 of them are happening on iOS devices. Right? So mobile is huge for us. So the last point there is to take risks and test. Back to the first point. Test and test and test again to make sure that you get what you need done and that your conversions happen. So bringing all these tips into kind of a real-life example. So this past winter, we had holiday cards. Holiday cards was an effort that was born in 7 days. It started with an email from one of our founders, Joe. He emailed us and said, hey, what if we allowed our community to send holiday cards and we didn't just send some blanket email saying happy holidays? So what did we do? Well, we booked an Airbnb. We booked an Airbnb over a weekend, had 4 developers, 2 designers, a front-end guy, and developed holiday cards. Single best performing campaign in the history of Airbnb. Why? Because we let our community, we let those people who love canaries send emails to hosts or guests that they've stayed with over the last year. Right? Here's an example of the holiday card. Very simple design, very simple call to action. Reply with your card. This is one that I've received from a host in Austin. Stayed overnight in his awesome Airstream trailer. Walked in. The Airstream was parked in the backyard. He said, come on in. It was a great experience. And he sent me a holiday card. What did this do for our community? Well, it went social and global. We sent this email out to just about 700,000 users, right? And this is the type of response we got. Love being able to wish my guests happy holidays. This particular host even got another review out of the holiday card. So reviews are a big thing on Airbnb. People kind of look at where they're staying based on a review of a particular host or location. Global. This came from a user in Portugal. Again, happy holidays. Really read my mind with the Christmas cards. Genius idea, right? So again, using our community to generate emails so that we didn't have to. All right, so let's get down to some numbers. So we sent this card out to 700,000, just about 700,000 users. That generated over 320,000 actual total card recipients. 43,000 people actually sent a card, an average of 7.5 cards per sender. Open rates, 65% on the holiday cards. Click-through rates, over 35%. And the biggest number there, without a call to action for a reservation, we generated over 600 reservations just by people getting a holiday card, right? You saw the creative. There was no mention of staying on Airbnb. It was simply say thanks to your community, right? Single biggest email that we sent in 2012. If you want to connect, feel free to follow me on Twitter. Probably the best place to get a hold of me and grab my attention. I don't get quite as many emails as Andrew, but pretty close. So this is a great place to reach me. And thanks.
Thanks, George. I met our next speaker, Alessandra Sowers, several years ago at a user conference. We actually ended up staying at a bar, I don't even know, until like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Do you remember that?
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Oh.
With a group of colleagues, and we argued about email marketing for quite some time. I don't know if you remember.
I'm sure it happened.
I'm sure it happened.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased to introduce Alessandra. She's based in LA. She manages the email marketing for JibJab and Storybots, the company's new line of digital education and entertainment for children. Prior to JibJab, she worked in the retail marketing space for 4 years. It was now focused on content and subscription marketing for JibJab's 2 brands. So welcome, Alessandra Sowers.
Thank you, Andrew. So as Andrew said, I work for JibJab Media, and we have 2 brands, JibJab.com and Storybots. Most people are familiar with JibJab.com. We've been around since 1999 when the 2 brothers in the logo founded the company. We're most known for our political satires like This Land in 2004 with George Bush and John Kerry, and then we kind of evolved into e-cards. So now we do our Starring You e-cards like Gangnam Style, Elf Yourself, Chippendales, all kinds of stuff that people would probably embarrass you with. And so we don't have a whole lot of time to go over the history of the company or the email marketing program, so I will start. When I came into the company in July of last year, there wasn't really an existing email marketing program at all, so we were pretty much starting from the ground up there. But one of my goals was to integrate JibJab's most iconic data into the email marketing program, and that data are the faces that the customers or that our members upload to their accounts and they put into e-cards. We have a very unique opportunity there where we have those photos and we know that they're connected to the user in some form. So I wanted to integrate that into the email marketing experience, put it directly into the inbox with our members, and by doing that, increase our click-through and our conversion rates for those emails. And so we built an engine called Pi, what we call it internally. It's a personalized image engine, and that technology allows us to put your faces or your heads directly into an email graphic that we send you. And we built this with 2 engineers over the course of a couple of weeks in November, so we could implement it during the holidays, which is our biggest season. And the technology is a combination of our existing e-card casting technology that you use on the site, mixed with a little bit of SQL to identify who gets what and what that image shows, and then a lot of servers to actually populate these images. The technology is built so that we don't have to pre-populate those images and store them. They're actually populated on the fly, so we don't have to store millions and millions of images over time for people to access. Every time you open the email, you see a refreshed version of it. And so as much as I would love to say that I followed best practices and I tested this thoroughly before implementing it, I did not. I went on a hunch and sent this out to 100% of our list in December because we were in the middle of the holiday season, and I figured that if you saw your face or your friend's faces in an email, you were more likely to click through. And so we sent it out, and it did really well. This was our very first version of it with just 3 faces in a mug. That's me, my friend, and my brother. We used the most recent heads uploaded to your JibJab account. And then we kept going with it because it did fairly well. Again, we didn't test it, so I didn't know exactly how well, but it wasn't bombing. I knew that. So we kept moving with different e-card features. We added more heads, different sizes, different layouts, going through the holiday season here with Santa and his elves. And then the last one of the holiday season featured our one character from each of our top holiday e-cards. And then we moved right into St. Patrick's Day. We couldn't really do Valentine's Day because we don't have the data that says this head's a female and this is a male and they are in a romantic relationship. So we couldn't really use that the way we wanted, so we did a traditional mail there. But we moved into St. Patrick's Day, and as you'll see here, we actually added a line above the image that says this email is customized with faces from your JibJab account, and I will get to why we had to be that explicit later. And then Easter, we still have that tagline along, or that line along the bottom of the image, and then we have our 5 Easter bunnies and another version of that. But if you'll notice here, if you have fewer heads in your account than we request for the email, they get replaced with the ghost heads with the question marks in them. So it's very flexible technology. So going back to our St. Patrick's Day test, it was sort of the slow season, so we were able to test this and get a great case study for ourselves, which is why I'm talking here today. So we did a 50-50 test with all of our members of a personalized and a non-personalized version. And if you received the personalized version, there were 3 types of content that you could have received depending on your member state. If you had a JibJab account but had never created an e-card and you had 0 heads in there, you would see one version. If you had fewer heads than what we needed, you would see that version. If you had all heads, you would see no question mark heads in that email. So here's the version you would have received if you got the non-personalized or if you had 0 heads in your account. And this is the version you would have seen if it was a personalized. And personalized version, also notice in the corner we have the flag with the tiny disclaimer there. So, great results. Thankfully, my hypothesis around the holidays was right, and I get to keep my job. The casted version, the personalized version, click rates were up 35%. Conversion rate, meaning subscriptions, downloads, and hard goods, was up 43%, and the revenue on that was up 117%. So, by doing a personalized version of our email, we could potentially more than double our email revenue for the year, which is huge impact. Now, it wasn't all puppies and rainbows. We had some varying reactions and confusion with this. For instance, we are still receiving legal threats. We have a lot of users who think that we are taking their face and marketing their face to millions of people because they don't see the disclaimer or don't read, or they just get so angry so quickly. So we get a lot of those emails. We also receive emails just demanding compensation. They don't want to get any lawyers involved, but they want to work out a financial settlement with us. And then we also get a lot of responses directed to the friends in the e-card. So it's really interesting. People don't see this as a marketing message. They think somebody has gone into the site, created an e-card, and sent it to them with their face in it. So we get a lot of emails about like, oh, haha, Bobby, so cute. Can't wait to see you for breakfast on Sunday. And so we see a lot of those, and I don't really know what to do with them. I don't want to respond and say, haha, wrong person, but this was a marketing email, so that's really interesting. And then lastly, demands for more personalization. So people see these emails and they actually expect to be able to click through and create the card just as they see it in the email, which I agree, that would be totally great. So we found that if you take it to one level, you have to take it even further to please everybody. So that's in the works. And regarding the legal threats and compensation demands, that's why we've tweaked the text over time. So at first we had no disclaimer, so, you know, I understand why people thought we would be marketing their face to millions of people. And then we added the personalized for you, and that wasn't clear enough. I had a nice phone call with a member about that. And then we added the extremely explicit line, like, these faces are from your JibJab account, and there's no doubt about it. But we're still receiving the emails. It's always going to happen. And so our future plans for this technology would include deeper testing of it. We want to see how many heads should we include, what size are they, what's the layout. We also want to implement it into our triggered emails and the on-site experience. And I've found it interesting that email has been a testing ground for what we do on our site. And then also want to integrate it into Storybots, the children's brand that we mentioned earlier. And that's a tricky territory because we are using children's faces in parents' emails. So we're going to have to make it extremely explicit to parents that those children's faces aren't being shown anywhere else. And I'll end with the last personalized email that we did for April Fools. This is me as a sloth. And so we promised our longest starring you video ever, which was hanging from a tree for 2 hours. We obviously did not make that video, but it was just a kind of a fun gag with like a single head in it, and that got a lot of fun responses. So the moral of my story here today is to find a unique piece of data to your company and don't be scared to use it in a fun way, because you can have a lot of good results from that. That's it.
So the last speaker stands in between you and questions and lunch. So I'd like to introduce Bob. Bob and I have been colleagues for years. Him and I love to argue in circles and disagree and agree with one another. But Bob's a really, really smart guy. He's a vice president of email marketing for the San Diego-based Zito Group, where he and his team have rebuilt the email program and tripled email revenues in the last year. Prior to Zito, Bob was vice president of marketing for Live Nation, where he also rebuilt the email effort and generated a whopping and awesome $220 million in ticket sales. So welcome, Bob Frady.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you to my colleagues for talking about the art side of things. I want to talk a little bit more about the data side of things. Andrew mentioned that I have been with Zito for about a year now. We run a site called getitfree.us. It's got about 2.8 million Facebook likes. It's got about 2.6 million email names and is growing like crazy. I also took over the email program at Live Nation, which is the world's largest concert promoter, and tripled revenues there from email by building some really cool technology with George's company, but when he was on the supplier side. And I left one out. I was head of global email marketing for Expedia, and I'd rather not mention that experience at all. So sometimes you have successes and sometimes you have failure. What I wanted to talk about is data. Email is part art. We've got all sorts of artistic concerns that we have, but really email is about data. The thing that I love so much about email is that it's a provable technology. You don't have to make assumptions about it. You don't have to say, well, this is what I think. Frankly, who cares what you think? What does the data tell you? And what I want to talk about is some of the elements that I've seen that are very effective in raising the value of your email program without having to do a lot of extra work. The first piece of email data that drives email success, of course, is the email address. And I know some of you may be thinking, well, that's rather obvious, Bob. Thanks for spending our money wisely to learn that email is important to email. And I put this up there not because it's so obvious, but to really talk about the tyranny of the e-commerce marketer. It shocks me to this day how difficult it is for some sites for people to actually sign up for email communications from a particular brand. Live Nation's still horrible at it. Just go to Live Nation's site and try to sign up for email, and you can't. Expedia's not very good at it. Zito's very good at it, by the way. It surprises me that, and really this goes to the feeling versus science part of email marketing. Usually that decision is because someone says, well, I don't like that. And my response, which is why I work at a smaller company rather than a larger company now, is, well, screw you. Who cares what you think? Go out and prove the value of getting this data. Find the email address. That's the first. You want to talk about social. You want to talk about communities. The first step in building a social community in your user experience is to get their email address so you can communicate with them. That's where it all starts. Take on your e-commerce marketers and say, hey, listen, I know that you don't like it, that you want to put the sign-up form on the second page behind 3 different offers, but getting the email sign-up is the most critical piece of information that you have. The second piece of data that provides email success is previous purchase data. If you bought something once, you are 80% more likely to buy it again than the average consumer. It's just the way it works. It's an obvious piece of information, but again, a lot of email systems don't integrate very well with back office, so you can find out what previous purchase actually bought. The problem with previous purchase data is that it's limited to people who actually purchased a product. You can go back in and resell people on the same thing, but the real money is in getting those people who haven't bought it to buy it for the first time. And previous purchase data won't tell you that. But previous purchase data is the most obvious piece of information from your POS system that you should be able to integrate with email. Then it gets a little harder. The next piece of information is email click data. How many people here believe in segmentation? I don't believe in segmentation. And the reason is because, well, I take that back. I don't believe in segmentation if it eliminates discovery from your email process. What a lot of email marketers do is they get on this segmentation kick. It's like freaking crack, for crying out loud. They get on this segmentation kick and they're like, we have to have the most personalized, segmented user experience. And you know what that is? That's marketers talking. Your consumer doesn't necessarily believe that. One of the things that we did at Live Nation that was it was terrific is every Monday we sent an email to everyone on our list that had all the shows in their market. It allowed for discovery. The whole goal of that was not to send something to everyone. The whole goal was for the user to go through all those shows that are available and click on the show that they were interested in. What we found is that if you click on a show, you're 40% more likely to actually buy a ticket to that show than the general public or the general email universe, even if you haven't bought that show before. The way that you do that is you have to manage your links properly. Every single email is comprised of links. If you structure your links the same way, there's always a spot for artist or product or whatever it is that you have to market. So after the third slash is your product code. Once you click on that link, you drop the product code into the email database as if it's a buyer. They're not a buyer, they're a clicker. So they're not quite as valuable as a buyer, but they've self-expressed an interest. And you get this all the time with, I went to Amazon and I bought, booties for my niece's baby, and now I get booty emails all the time. or children's clothing email. This is a way around that. You keep the discovery portion of things running, and then you use that click data and drop it in as purchase data or near purchase data. And then you build front ends to say, well, give me people who purchased or clicked on these particular categories of product. Zeta was very good at that, by the way. Here's the next part. Gets even harder. Web click data. Anybody here use Omniture? Pain in the ass to get Omniture data into your email system. In fact, the next successful installation will be the first successful installation I've seen personally. Not that people haven't done it. I'm sure that they have. I just haven't seen it work. And the reason is because they're trying to do two separate things. Omniture is not concerned with your email behavior. You have to be much more concerned with your email behavior. And your web data, anybody familiar with the term RFM? Recency, frequency, monetary? Web data gives you recency and frequency. It tells you what people are interested in. They are telling you exactly what they want by looking at different pages on your website. The way that you get that data into your email system is really kind of tricky. You can put a first-person cookie on your website that feeds directly into your email system, which, by the way, is the future of the business, in case you're wondering about that. Or you can try to do it through a bulk import. Bulk imports are way harder. Place a first-person cookie, tag the pages that you're at, and then add those to your email system as people looked at this site. So then you've got previous buyers, you've got clickers, and then you've got lookers, all of whom are more valuable than the general audience. This is something that Andrew and I like to argue about a lot, customer preference data. How many people have customer preference data centers? You're missing out if you don't have them. Now, Andrew will say they're useless, and they are for some people. If you don't have a lot of products, then they are kind of useless. But what the customer preference data is an opportunity for the user to tell you exactly what they're interested in. They may only fill it out once when they sign up, but the other place that they'll fill it out is when they try to leave. So you've got an unsubscribe button in your email program. When you hit the unsubscribe button, rather than just saying goodbye, bring them back to a preference center that says, well, maybe the cadence is wrong. Maybe the types of things we're sending you are wrong. This is your opportunity to either say goodbye or to just change what it is that we're sending to you so it's more in line with what you want. At Live, no booties. At Live Nation, what we did is we pulled in your iTunes feed. So we could look at iTunes data, we pulled it into the preference center, and that let you select which artists that you wanted to take a look at. So you never missed a concert for when your artist was in town. We had 500,000 people sign up in 6 weeks. It was ridiculous how rich the data set was. So customers aren't going to go in and actively manage their preferences on a day-by-day basis. But for those opportunities, when they do, you want to have it available for them. Deliverability data. Deliverability is easier if you're a big brand. Big brands have an easier time at deliverability because people recognize the name and they trust it and they pull it through their inbox. If you're a smaller or less well-known brand, it's much more of a challenge. You have to watch your deliverability data very carefully. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of deliverability people because I think that they sometimes rely on magic and smoke and mirrors to get a point across. They're trying to scare people rather than trying to help people. But I do believe that a good deliverability person who has good knowledge of the data is a valuable asset because these are tea leaves that you need to read to get into the inbox. The last thing on this list, and it's only last because I felt I should put it up there, is external data. How many people append external data to their email file? Have you seen it work? Or you're like, well, I should put it on there because they tell me it's good, and then I can't quite figure out how to make sense out of it. To me, I have worked with 3 different companies. I've tried appending external data from compilers, and I have not seen the value rise above the cost just yet because it's very expensive data. If you don't have any of these other things, then external data becomes very valuable, like knowing the age or income or location of somebody. If you only have their email address, is very valuable. But all of these other data elements above external data are far more valuable than external data. If you're relying on external data to drive your program, then you really need to look at these other data sources as well. Okay, all that said, really what this comes down to is fully mining the data that you have before you go looking to other people for help. You know, if you're relying on your analytics team to give you customer click data from your website for your email program, that's not their priority. And you're going to wait. And you're not going to, because that data decays very rapidly. So you're not going to have the benefit of getting that data into your system. Place a first-person cookie on your site that's dedicated to email and bring that data into your system. Your internal data is far more valuable than your external data. From a branding or lead generation standpoint, you spend an awful lot of money bringing people to your site, yet email marketers do a fairly lousy job at exploiting all of that data that people give them when they come to the site. You know, it's very much a downstream thought process, and email marketers aren't aggressive enough to go in and say, hey, I want the upstream data as well, which is the web data and the click data. However, internal data does age much more quickly. You can get date of birth from a file, and the date of birth generally doesn't change for the whole life of the person. Yet the click behavior will change every day or every week. So you have to make sure that you don't build models that are predicated upon click data from 2 years ago, that you use recency to drive click data behavior. If you do all these things, the first tripling of your revenue is pretty easy. The second tripling of your revenue is much more of a challenge. But that's it.